for illumined life to be birthed into form. I am the truth. I am the light. Illumined, beloved, divine.
So hello there everyone, and welcome to this video, which is actually a third part, a continuation into the keys of union. I didn't actually know when I started recording these videos that there'll be 3 parts, but today I just sat down outside and started writing about this whole process through a very the language that I call the language of God, which is basically just the language of calling the children back home to the heart of God, the heart of love. In the past few videos, I talked about the meaning and purpose of the prophecies of God, and those of us who've basically completed this cycle of light and dark coming into greater completion and wholeness, that there is no escaping this healing. This is simply whoever you are, whatever you're doing right now on the planet, and generally speaking, we're all a part of the same healing, and we can't overlook it, we can't escape it. Automatically being a part of this realm, we are a part of this healing, so we're all responsible for it. Some perhaps more than others due to our vows and oaths we made to God, to the divine. So today, actually, the last culmination video of the Trinity, I always do things in Trinities, in case you don't know, will be in a written form. And when I started writing about this process of, not suppressing the things and energies that make us feel insecure or incapable of moving through something, or simply just uncomfortable. Because nowadays, as you know, there's so much talk in our psyche about different aspects of why this whole relationship of some who are avoidant of life and some who are very invested, or some people moving towards awakening, enlightenment, and people who are in denial and denying the healing, denying God as calling us to this healing, denying basically their own responsibility to life, and denying themselves the keys to love, the journey of love, because the only true fulfillment and true union is found when you can achieve it without any sense of guilt, shame, remorse, things that basically validate your experiences as being valid, and yet they're just experiences. There's different levels of soul maturation and maturity, and yet everyone has the same opportunities. No one was privileged or given more than someone else. It's just that some worked harder than others on the behalf of this greater universal healing. So I will start reading today because I don't want this last video to be too long. The other 2 parts were quite long and extensive. As I started writing, I always write from my own heart, my own human understanding, with the greater intelligence of God, which means that my human child, my human experience is already merged with the consciousness of this all-exuding emanation of divine love, wisdom, and power of God. So as I start reading these words today, know that this is the road to healing. This is the journey to completion and wholeness, claiming full responsibility. And it's not about who's more in charge than someone else. It's all about simply where we are in this collective cycle, which is a spiral of the cosmic Christ essence calling us back to the core. Some beings who are, as I've said, volunteers in this process, they already exude this light from the core together with God. Many of them, not all, but many of them know how it is to simply exude the divine intelligence of God. And many are in the road to remembrance, and some are stuck in complete forgetfulness. But who are we, right, to judge? God is simply overseeing every step of this journey, and those who are willing to listen and pay attention, I just want to put this reading out of my heart, placed a piece, an element of God within your own hearts. Just listen with acceptance and a desire to heal. Because even parts that we don't still feel we need to heal, they're there. And they're lying under the covers of our ignorance or avoidance and not wanting to face certain energies or people. And these are all aspects of separation. And keeping us in this dual-based energy, rather than our unique expression, but at the same time being in unity and union with others through God. Okay? So when we start this journey, as I've said, we're going to start seeking higher truths rather than that half-truths. When you think, oh, as long as I get an information that will boost my ego, think I didn't do anything here. That's not the way to heal. To boost your ego temporarily, it's like putting a band-aid. Well, underneath is still a bleeding wound, right? In case it's not even severely infected, perhaps. But when you really step on this path, instead of seeking temporal questions or easy, quick fix solutions, right? You're actually searching for key meanings to union, meanings to life. And when I started the transgression healing, right, my journey was very complex, because at the first part, before we even started physically moving, I literally had to set up the configuration of my light body again, because it was severely compromised, right? This took a while. It took a few months. Then my physical body, this was the longest, most enduring process, had to heal from this transgression. So all the misalignments that cause physical pain, all the inlays in the body, which are like implants and yet they're not, all these things had to be healed gradually. The last part was reserved for the human psyche and the human emotion, because right first we have to set up a light being configuration for the light being to even be able to overflow within the body. Then the body has to reach a level of wellness and well-being again, and then these traits of human psyche are left to be reconfigured back into a state of perfection and wholeness. So as I went through these last vestiges, sometimes I look back in my past, I revisited certain aspects, I revisited certain dynamics with people. As a Illumined volunteer being, I was digging for the shadow aspects or misconfigurations, misalignments, because that's my work. And for me, the only way to do this is to be truly, authentically honest with myself. I can't avoid even one aspect, because then I'm missing very important information that God has laid upon me. And through my human heart, I get to explore these aspects, denying not even one of them, right? Their existence. And this is how I heal, within unity, within union principles. So when we start searching for deeper meanings of life, not just what's my mission, what's my purpose, but things like your human feelings, your human calling, this is when, for me at least, what I felt recently, this is when the human psyche gets to heal. And it's literally, as a part of this ascension process, the last aspect to start the healing is kind of like leaving the best for the last. And yet it's a thing, if I will tell you from my own perspective, through my own epiphanies, when, I'm very deep. Not just as a being, my consciousness goes deep, but as a human as well. I'm a deep person. I go very deep when I plunge into questions of life and the way I interact with source of life and this divine intelligence. I have to really understand things, and therefore my questions have to be deep and well put, right? They have to be well posed if I want to get the right answer, because superficial questions don't lead to any true, rich, lasting, right, answers. It's just temporal, quick solutions that are not really, right? They don't lead to healing. So I was recently noticing how my human is now asking, after all this light being mission and quest and with transgression, like, but wait a minute, what's my purpose now? What do I get to experience as a human? Will I just vanish? Will I just ascend? Will I get something as a reward? What's my purpose in life now? Because in my own case, right, my mission was very difficult as a life being on a quest. And because of that, my human self, my human child had to mature very quickly. It didn't have time for BS, for, just take it easy here and there. I really had to be all the way through and through, all the time. So this meant that I kind of outgrew myself, outgrew many others, outgrew many situations. And because of this, I often feel like standing out from everyone and from everything, and feeling, how does one, by embodying this kind of frequency and consciousness, even stay within attainment in this physical realm? these are not easy questions to ask, and I've been asking them recently. And when I ask them, my child puts them out there, and I don't demand an answer, I just let them be, and I will get little snippets here and there. But this is all, what I'm saying, a part of this healing, because most people, as you know, they're so trapped in the constant cycling, and it's almost like they don't even try to find space, I'm not going to say time, but not even try to create the space to actually start digging. Because it feels scary, right? What will be there? What are some of the unresolved issues? Things I've suppressed, things I've laid aside and said, later, deal with this later. Eventually they pile up so much that, as I've explained in the first video reading about these interferences, very dark interferences, eventually when we don't claim our sovereignty well enough, we have a few rounds and then we kind of like always leave it for later. Something gets there along the way, in between, and it squeezes itself and then outgrows itself like mold, right? And we don't stop the problem, so the problem keeps on growing. But today, in this last final, it's not never something final with me, but when it comes to this series of the keys to union, first acknowledging, right, where did it all begin? How did this darkness even manage to get in between us and God, between us and, let's say, our counterpart, or between us and ourselves? Because it is all a reflection, us having a relationship with God through a reflection with ourselves. Even when we're having a relationship with the other, it's a relationship, or it's a reflection of ourselves. And some people give us great reflection because they're also very enlightened, and some people don't. But instead of denying these aspects, we have to look into them. And I'll be talking more about these archetypes, as I've promised, shadow, masculine, feminine, and how they're playing out on my group work on Patreon, Illumined Ascension. But today I want to read you from the bottom of my heart, the heart of God, this writing, okay? So I was going through this search quest, and I always do that. I release certain aspects, look back for a while. I don't stay stuck. I just look back. If there's something still pulling me, I know there's something for me that I need to take from my experience, place it in my now with overlighting understanding. And when the understanding is not yet complete, my inner child will keep on searching. But I allow myself. And the problem with most is that we don't allow ourselves to experience things or feelings that feel, they're difficult feelings. But let me tell you, the most difficult feelings are the ones that lead a soul to be a deep soul. And a soul that can have an extension or embodiment that is also one of a deep being, a deep human, eventually a lumen human, okay? So when I was going through this energy, some aspects that I would say I wouldn't like to feel or be in the proximity of or invite into my experience. Let's say energies that come and engulf you from the outside, or external energies of other people, other situations, and let's say dramas of others even. But I knew actually that this was a part of my healing process, that there is no other way but through it, that I have to allow myself to feel this, because through this understanding will come. So I had to let it go, let it be, and surrender myself into it. So true self-acceptance has to be a result in the true acceptance of others. And this is what we're talking about, right? The key to union. And accepting yourself means that you see the situation clearly about yourself, and then where others are, or where specific another is to you. And this is where the information gets interesting. So the true self-acceptance, I'll start here again, has to be a result in true acceptance of others, which isn't exactly, or isn't exact, right, as it is, if a part of you is not only trying to change the other or the experience that you're looking into, or try and heal, but actually influence the reality unfolding, which is between two or more energies, right? Between you and another, between you and a group, between you or a place. It's an experience coming back, reflected. When you're looking back, let's say we're going back to the past, we're actually reflecting on something that came through understanding in waves and cycles, but it's still not complete. So we're continuously going and bringing it in until it's complete. But it doesn't happen until we acknowledge everything as it simply is. Reality is not how this person wants it, how I want it, but as it truly is, as God sees it. The closer to God, the more you will see it in God's eyes, with God's eyes as well. So reality truly is only as it is, right? Not as we're trying to mold it into our perspective. A part of the distorted human psyche during trauma and wounding processes often protects itself from seeing or witnessing things as they truly are, and instead seeing or painting the entire picture more of light. Some people of the opposite, maybe they want to paint more of the shadow if they're very pessimistic. But it's either way, whether you say, oh, this is so bad, I don't want to go into it, because you would rather believe it's so bad to protect yourself, or you protect yourself by saying, oh, it's so fluffy and light, or falling in love with the potential of something or someone, but it's not the actual truth of what something already demonstrate with the way they act, right? So the reason why we do that, because this stored up trauma makes us see things in a conjured up way, but it's not the realistic way. Because there is a reality as it is that it's independent from all of our perspectives. It's just, this is it. It's like we say, seeing it with the discernment of God, with the illumined eyes, yes? So instead, when painting a picture more of light or more shadow, this way we are already controlling the reality around us and others, rather than letting it be for what it is and showing itself for what it actually is under the all-seeing, watchful eye of God, the eye of human truth. It's like a deeply rooted and hidden or veiled part of control in the human psyche, because it is truly not easy being a human, and we've collectively, as the spirit of humanity, witnessed a lot. As you know, a lot of suffering, a lot of destruction, even annihilation, in this game of Christ versus the Antichrist even. And that's why this safety-like vent has been imprinted into our subconscious to better handle or cope with the reality and what we experience at this time, meaning that we artificially begin filtering our experiences automatically, one after the other, on and off button, right? So this is when the perspective that I'm reading becomes to be more of just God laying upon divine calling to all of us. This way, we sort of limit our process of processing that is natural and organic, thus stunting our own growth, making it evolutionary much slower. For any of filtering and projecting immediately limits, if not even blocks, the direct life force supply of God, which means that we literally self-isolate and deprive ourselves, right? Self-deprecate from a full, wholesome experience. We see this very evidently so in our current reality, with so much filtering of the human experience, and thus deeply controlling it. You see this, right? Just look at the realm. Everything, every aspect of our life is trying to be controlled now. How we are able to behave. Where can we go? Where can we travel? Where we can't? What to put in our body or not, right? Most of the human experience is deeply controlled at this time, and anyone unwilling to acknowledge this and to confront it will remain in the so-called status quo. The life of the individual and the soul will then not budge, and thus remain in the stagnancy or the lack of self-trust and faith in God or the divine. What happened? This is when God starts calling us. What happened to humans simply being a beautiful human child, a part of the divine child of God experience? When you simply honor every day, you don't have to question, why is this happen? The answer will come when you trusting that behind everything is God. Everything is ultimately for your growth, whether it's difficult or not. The only stubborn one is you, right? It's the ego, and ego is basically just a name, one of the names we've given to separation. What happened to living life spontaneously according to the organic desires of the heart? What happened to simply being alive for the sake of life itself? And I know many would argue, yeah, but I have to survive and live, and maybe you never had a downtime in which you said, what if others are filtering these thoughts, and maybe I would be already independently successful if I pursued enough of my self-trust that right now, by now, I would already be in self-loving, self-authoritative kind of way, the way I manage my resources, and not earn money, but live in a constant energetic exchange with life by pursuing what is my mission. Because for your purpose that is of God, you're always repaid. And if you're not in God alignment, you have to work for it, because you literally lost the true connection of infinite abundance state, right? Instead, humans have replaced childlike innocence and trust, playfulness, and learning through experiences, and thus growing in wisdom, organically by intermediary interfaces of like, such as various seemingly innocent and are not so innocent systems of control which exist via analysis, such as chart readings, via self-analysis and prediction, casts, readings as channeled information, other people giving you information, other people giving you answers, other people mining for the field, what people call the akasha, and yet it's just a false imprint of something that you could easily have just by, like a child connecting to God, like you did already when you were yourself a child, before being indoctrinated. And it's not just, people always think people who indoctrinated are those who go to church and have a form of religion. Very many spiritual people now who are so-called spiritual are reaping the benefits of this indoctrination, but it's almost like a very hidden version that we often don't want to admit to ourselves. From the perspective of God, it feels like all and everyone are running in the opposite direction, taking a complicated and complex route, while life was always meant to be simple, natural, enjoyable. Now everyone is aiming for success in various life areas, as they believe, and while in this process losing themselves as a result. Such a hard price to pay. And yet, when did God ever want the soul to be taken away from life-affirming pleasures? Yes, the deprivation of the senses and the increasing ratio of narcissistic traits at the expense of innocence and purity, which rare ones seem to value anymore. This is what this is. And yet, it is the core of simplicity and true essence of divinity. That's how important innocence is. The more successful you become, the more you have to prove yourself. Isn't that right? In the system, the more you have, the more you need to sustain what you have. Harder it gets, right? And the less you feel the core of your pulsating heart due to that. And the less you seem to care about true spiritual growth and mastery, not analysis, philosophy, and intellect, and thus the less you also care about your true self. Thus, meaning the less you care about others. And yet deep within, the thirst for life grows stronger and stronger, for there are yet human traits and desires left within the soul, if not completely wiped out in the process. And there is no time, right, in one's life to stop, take a look, listen, and then ask some serious questions. For example, who am I really? Where am I? What drives me? God? Or is it lust, greed, false desires? Where have I suddenly lost myself? What happened to me? Since I was a child, maybe. Or a teenager, or a young adult. Some people have big dreams, never fulfill them, because they just ended up in a self-imprisonment, or trap, or jail. Spiritual jail, people call it. And as you know, spiritual warfare loves to keep people in spiritual jail. Because through that sense, you can't really know God, right? You can't feel what it is to live a life of bliss. So what truly happened, right? Where have I suddenly lost myself? What happened? For after all, aren't human feelings the same as the feelings of God? Through that which the human was once seated and came into creation, into life. So when the thirst for life is not quenched, it is being sought by one outside of themselves, toxically through the sense of lack and deprivation, hence narcissistic traits, right? Taking from someone what you cannot yet have or give or offer to another because you don't offer it to yourself. So these so-called energy vampires or narcissists come into form, come into manifestation this way, extending from the deep self-inflicted wound by no longer realizing, knowing, and honoring the mother. That which gave you life, that force of life that sustains all. That in which eyes and womb of life primordial, everyone is always her child, the innocent one of God, created in the image and likeness. So many have abandoned the mother since exiting from her womb of life, forgetting about her, wanting nothing to do with her even, ignoring her, her love, and the love she wanted to cultivate and grow in their heart of the soul. Denying the mother is denying yourself of life. Life, once cut off from this primordial life principle, is not just given, right? You say, from now on it's just me, without God. What does this mean? have to find your way back to God, right? It has to then be cultivated and self-sustained. And as the seed of life or lumen life of God is already in all since the very beginning, it is the soil or the soul that has to be cultivated and grown in order for the seed to be ripe. The soil has to be fertile. And that deep, rich soil as a potential has been every embodied experience that every soul being has ever had. But now, the new cycle is here, where everyone will be summoned upon by God, showing their union of seed and the soil, which is the light or the spirit, and the body, which is the feminine principle, right, and the masculine. That truly is the real divine union of all illumined beings and masters, and what they know, demonstrate, and teach. But they already contain it within themselves. And they've done the work themselves to seed all the souls who desired the true remembrance of the Mother, the birthing point of all souls in love, through love, and into love, as love, wisdom, and power. And I've talked about this as well, right? When we said that the lumen seed was planted in all who've asked for it. Now we're just cultivating, germinating, and awaiting results. And also the birth of each individual soul as an initiate of God. Everyone will be able to show off their fruits of the labor now. And as some have worked and toiled, others have been having fun, and some even laughing, basking in ignorance, denying God, making fun of life and creation. And yet, in God's cycles of life, everything simply is, all is equal, and all cycles must come to a pass. That's where justice and fairness come in. And in this time, everything will eventually come into balance, and justice will be done. There will be judgment upon judgment with no excuses and prolonged extension dues. These were already given and offered as divine dispensations of the light. Remember, back in the summer, I made a video in which I said the split, we're already behind because of these dispensations. We had to go through some things that some beings asking for an extension. That was given. No more extensions at this time. In that sense, divine justice has already happened. Those who think, well, nothing I'm feeling. Yes, you have received the seed, but have you refused it perhaps? For all soul beings, right, this justice, divine justice, has already happened. Now, justice must only be left to be served. Finally, it is time. And everyone will show whether they have embraced the Mother of Life, creation, humbly, and so whether they are for or against God, whether they're being ignorant or foolish, or they have sobered up, awakened, and acknowledged the Spirit of life. There's no messing around with God, but all of their being fully and holy. And only this way they can become holy themselves. Only this way the Holy Spirit can touch the heart of mankind. It's no longer time to just enjoy the seeds of wickedness. We've seen that in many. We were asking, where's the righteous ones? Where's our time now, yeah? The time is now coming for a fool, not just another temporary solution. Reaping. For some, the Grim Reaper, right? We know the Grim Reaper, it's not a pleasant figure, will be a most abundant blessing in their life. While for others, an actual death, which is one karmic flood actually after the other. Everyone always had equal opportunities in the eyes of God, but everyone used them differently according to how much love for life they actually had in opposition to, let's say, selfish means and natures. So how much they truly love God, that's what they were each to demonstrate. Are they willing to drop their books, self-proclaimed titles, and self-righteous status, and simply be the innocent child of God, the Immaculate One? God feels every single heart already, for all are of Him, of her. Now it's time that instead of going for the external pursuits, one goes after their own heart, their own soil, their own soul. Seek and explore what is truly there, how much leftover fear and other residue is there, and how much light versus shadow, right? Can the balance still be restored, and how? And are the inner polarities of masculine and feminine life principles balanced? And how can they come into union? Can all of the past, what no longer truly is, because this is it, the reality that is now, be finally released? Can there be peace through the union of soul with God, forgiveness and compassion, love, unity, instead of competition and petty arguments? All is possible through the love of the child, that innocent child of God, all can be let go of and burn in lumen flames instantly. Can you do it? But rather, will you do it? Are you the chosen one? Yes. You know the answer, and only you know the answer to that. And what I want to say here is that we often think that the serious tendencies in nature are a reflection of some sort of awakened spirit. Not really, you know, there's many, many spirits who, the more they illuminate, the more they are illuminated and illuminating for the whole, the more playful and childlike they are. And it has nothing to do with being ignorant, foolish, and immature. Childlike and immature are two very different sides of this story. And ignorance and being stubbornly immature come from the denial of life, the denial of God, the denial of growth, not wanting to grow, not wanting to budge. Nope. And that's basically people who are very self-opinionated, self-righteous, and their only right is the only way and no other way, and that's very dogmatic. So in that way, you're also being indoctrinated, and you know that. People think, I'm not religious, so I'm never going to be indoctrinated. A lot of people indoctrinate themselves every day with love-deprived thoughts, lack of compassion and empathy for others. You know, there's people who've done not very nice things and never apologize to one single being because they thought, I'm always justified for what I do. That's also not a godly trait. It's better to apologize even if you feel like, maybe I haven't done much, but I'm going to apologize either way. That's a quality. And then that leads to awakening spirit, to matured reality, to matured soul, and the reality of the chosen one. And I have to tell you this story once because my mother was reading this book about Tantra, and there was this story, right, about what is childlike and what is immature. I think it's such a perfect example, actually. There was this story of people being on this retreat, and there was this guru, right, and people would come there to learn from the guru, yeah, from what they have to share. I don't know. But, you know, Tantra is basically the teaching of life, to accept life, total acceptance of life, which is truly feminine principle, right? Light, masculine, life, feminine. And together we have embodiment. So there was this person there, this woman, suddenly complaining about food. Like, every day we eat this Indian food, yuck, all spices, ugh, what does this have to do with this? You know, I miss good food, real food, you know, we come here and we whatever, you know, and we get this all the time. Where's any changes, right? So what happened, right, this guru was very mischievous. He was very playful because, of course, he's an awakened being, yeah? All beings are like this, very playful, very mischievous, not in a bad way. But sometimes it's to teach a lesson, right? So what he did, it was in the book, I laughed so hard. Next day, this woman found herself with a beautiful cake. He made a beautiful cake for her, right? So without even thinking and questioning, right? She's having that vision of need, lust, ooh, greed, goes all into that cake. And it was disgusting because what did he make it from? He made it out of shaving foam or something to do with that, and it looked beautiful. He made it like it literally looked like it's made of cream. And do you see, he was just laughing, and the woman started laughing because in that moment she realized that she was being taught a lesson in a playful way. So how do we really teach? We teach by demonstrating our own nature, being childlike, be goofy, not in a way that's immature, in a way that honors life, not dishonors others as a part of life. I really think that story is beautiful, and everyone who wants to come into Illumined Union will have to get really deep into the shadow and in the light. Both have equal experiences to cultivate within us, and I've always grown through my experiences. My experiences cultivated me. The channel information was only to get the higher perspective, what's happening in spirit, that I could connect both. My experience with the higher perspective. That's all my life was about. It was not about learning from others, especially not that. But everyone, of course, has some part of wisdom to share. And I was picking up pieces here and there until my child really realized that he knows. He knows just enough always by being the one of God. Being not just an illumined inspiration and embodiment here, but mostly being that for myself. And that's kind of towards the journey completion, or the end of this journey, the pilgrimage that is true fulfillment of the lasting illumined union. So this is that third octave, and the final, or the finalization of these 3 videos. But we will go deeper as always, and we always go each month to deepen our understanding of union and how to live it, demonstrate it and embody it, because you either have divine traits or you don't. Gray zone, as I've shared many times before, is disappearing. It only served a valid purpose for a specific amount of time when the prolonging due dates were extended. But now life will make its own choice. Life will choose, and whatever you choose for yourself, basically you're also choosing for others. Whether you choose to be separate or separated, you're going to continue in the pursuit of stubbornly hitting against the wall of darkness, or you will integrate, harmonize within yourself, and come into temperance, which is moderation, which is mastery, and therefore illumined union. Bringing the child into that octave of being, and being and existing in that state, is truly a work of art, a work of mastery. And one day when this physical experience is past, and we're on the, what I would say, the other side, where some of us have our real bodies and forms, we will see, and we will get to congratulate to those who've honorably walked the footsteps, and we will have to say goodbye to some that have decided otherwise, and that's okay. But it is the time now. And things are not just coming apart, they're not just splitting, but they're also, as I've explained before, in a paradox that only God understands. They're coming together in a way that they've never had before. And I think that's something that only God can do so beautifully, so masterfully. And in this regard, just recently I've also channeled a very important update about the higher perspective of what's actually taking place now among the dark and the light, and what God has made as this beautiful play of reversing the darkness and teaching it a lesson, and how this is all being played out now and why. And it will be demonstrated. I will present it on my working platform on Patreon, because we're going to go next month into the advanced resurrection teaching. So there will be an introduction into a body consciousness, Elohim bodies consciousness, and light body awareness that will come. So the spiral teachings are being complete by the end of this month. It was a difficult work, but I have it all now. I just have to record it, so it will come out. And I wish everyone a beautiful journey of taking these footsteps, and wherever you are in the path, just keep on going, because the movement within the truth will always restore balance back within the light and shadow, making it a dance of union. So choose that dance. Thank you for being here. As always, so much love. As an empower, take good care of yourself, and